The following program does not necessarily reflect the opinions and viewpoints of the staff and management of the station.
Welcome to the wonderful world of seniors, the best of all worlds. You now have the time, resources, and ability to enjoy what you have worked for all your life. So let's explore the many possibilities available to seniors on Senior World Radio. Senior World Radio is your source for senior citizens-related topics, information, and entertainment. Now, here is your host of Senior World Radio, Glenn Howard.
Welcome to the wonderful world of seniors. This older generation's living longer, has better health, more resources, greater opportunities to live and enjoy life more than any generation in history. In addition, we have a lot of memories, most of them good, some of them not so good, but all a part of our life in history. You know, living in Oklahoma, one of the realities of life is the weather. We talk about it, experience it, run from it, hide in underground shelters, but always accept the optimistic expression that if you don't like the weather now, just wait a few minutes and it will change. But there are those weather events that are so drastic we define our lives in history by them. Last week was the anniversary of one of those events. I'm talking about the Woodward tornado of 1947. The most deadly tornado to ever strike within the borders of the state of Oklahoma occurred on Wednesday, April the 9th, 1947, in the city of Woodward, Oklahoma. And since I was going to be out there with that big map of Israel making a presentation, I decided to stop by Woodward and see if I could find some survivors who remembered that day in Woodward 67 years ago. You know, that Woodward tornado actually started in the Texas Panhandle down near White Deer in Pampa, Texas, moved up through Woods County, Alva, Woodward, on through Ellis County, passing near Shattuck and Gage and Fargo, and finally winding up in Kansas up near Wichita. 116 people lost their lives that fateful night, and it resulted in the Weather Bureau, which is now called the National Weather Service, to begin a tornado watch and warning program, which has resulted in many lives saved and all a part of living in Oklahoma. When I got to Woodward, I saw a crowd at the Methodist Church, went inside to find a group of mostly seniors from several churches in the area, gathering as usual for dinner. You know, you get Methodist people together, they like to meet at the church and eat. And so we had an opportunity to ask around if there were any of the people who had been in Woodward when that tornado struck back in 1947. One of the ladies I met was actually in charge of the kitchen. She was making sure that everything went as it should. Her name was Rita Boyle, and Rita ran a tight ship, but she said she had been around during the 1947 tornado, and she'd be happy to tell me about some of her experiences. So I flipped on the recorder and asked her about it.
What happened 67 years ago today?
Okay. Well, I remember the clouds being unusual, and they were just lit up with lightning. And my daddy was in town, and the rest of us were at home. There's 5 of us kids, and we were at home. Dad was on his way home, and just at the southeast of Woodward, and he couldn't keep the car on the road. It just kept blowing him off, and so he came on home to see if we were okay, and he turned around and went back into town to help with it there. And at our place at home, we stored a lot of the stuff from our church. Our church was destroyed, and we also had other families that were in the community that we knew, and they stored some of their stuff out there on my dad's farm. And my husband was their place was hit by the tornado. They lived southwest of Woodward, and when it hit their place, tore their barn up. They were in the house. All the windows went out. They pulled their covers up over the head because they didn't know what was happening. And but we did come in to town. It was several days later before Dad let us kids come to town, but he stayed in there and worked and helped them. to.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember I actually was here the week after the tornado hit. I was living out in a town called Turpin, Oklahoma, out in the Panhandle, and we drove through town. And I remember seeing it, and as a child, that was such a overwhelming sight. But how do you feel like over the years did the tornado affect Woodward? Have the people been more frightened with it, or is it that that's a part of life and everybody bounces back, or what response do you think you've had to it?
Well, at first, people were really scared. If a cloud came up, they were frightened, and there probably wasn't that many storm shelters and things, throughout the area, but they were pretty frightened, and a lot of the new stuff then just immediately started being developed. But one day, Mother was going to town. This was shortly after the tornado, and when she turned off the highway, there was an envelope letter there, and of course a lot of the stuff was scattered after the tornado, so this looked like a fresh envelope, and she had stopped to pick it up, and inside the envelope it was a newspaper clipping about the Woodward, a poem of the Woodward tornado, and the address on the outside was smeared, it was written in ink, and what weather does to ink, but I kept that poem, and it's probably 18 inches long, and it's a column. And whoever wrote that, Faye Weeks is the one, her name is on it. But we don't know who Faye Weeks is. I have tried through various ways to find out who Faye Weeks is. And I wanted the paper to publish this because it was so real. And they wouldn't publish it because they didn't have the author's permission. And finally, we had one publisher that came in, and they says, well, we'll do it, but we'll have to put anonymous.
Right.
And I felt guilty ever since then because I did know who did it, but I have not been able to find out who Faye Weeks is.
Interesting.
The back of the column of the clipping are ads from, feel sure, from Delta, Colorado. So somebody out there either had relatives here, was here when it happened. If you haven't read that, I'm not sure who it was.
How would I get a copy?
Well, I have a copy of it at home.
Okay.
And back before we had all these copy machines, I gave them out to a lot of people. I went to, it was Robinson Printing at that time, and they said, well, they would print that up for me if I'd let them have it, and I wanted to share it because it is so real. But it's printed in the Woodward County History Book, the first volume of it. Somebody, I feel certain, had got it from when it was printed in the newspaper because it's still author unknown. But I do know who has it, and I gave my original one to the museum out here.
Okay, if you'll send me a copy of it, we'll see what we can do with it.
Okay.
At least we can read it possibly on radio.
Woodward newspaper printed a few years ago when Ion Swartz was out there at the museum. They did a front page article, and I never heard any comments from that. So if you can go online and look at that for the Woodward tornado poem.
As I left the Methodist church, I saw a lovely facility just south of the church that looked like a retirement facility and a sign saying that it was Provident Place. So I drove over there and told the manager I was looking for someone who had gone through the tornado that hit Woodward 67 years ago. She introduced me to a lovely lady who was 99 years of age by the name of Lahoma, Lahoma. Lahoma told me that she had been a twin, and her mother liked the name Lahoma, so she said that if she ever had a daughter, she was going to name her Lahoma. Well, when she was born with a twin brother, they didn't have a name for the twin brother, so she told the husband, you can name him anything you want to, but my daughter's going to be called Lahoma. So they decided to name the son Oak, O-K. So together you had Oak the boy and Lahoma the girl, true Oklahoma twins. I flipped on the recorder. Let me tell you a little bit about what she said.
First of all, you say you are a twin?
Uh-huh.
And they named you?
They named me. Mother had a girlfriend that lived at Anadarko by the name of Lahoma.
Uh-huh.
And she said, well, the girl's going to be Lahoma and you named the boy. So they called him Little Guy for several days, and then Dad came in and said, well, we'll just add Oak to Lahoma and that'll be his name.
So Lahoma and Oak, a twin boy and girl from Woodward.
That's right.
So were your whole family, let's see, in 47 you would have been a pretty young lady, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I'm 99 right now.
99.
Can't think how old I was then.
Okay. What do you remember about the Woodward
storm.
tornado?
Well, I was sewing in my sewing room that evening, and Dad, my husband, kept saying, come on in here and sit with us. And I said, well, I've got to get these dresses made for the two little girls for Easter. And but I finally got up and went in there, and when I did, the tornado come through, and my husband said, oh, push the children under the bed and we'll crawl in under. Well, it was too low, we couldn't get under, but we did get the children under it, and the ceilings and roof was gone, but the walls everywhere in our house was up. So none of us was hurt or anything.
How many were in your family at that time?
What?
How many children did you have at that time?
We had Dixie, Lee, my son, and Billy. We had 3 children.
Okay, so there were 5 of you in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And did you have any warning at all, or did you dream such was going to happen?
No, we didn't even have a TV, of course, then, and didn't have we had a radio, but we didn't have it on. But when he finally got me to come on into the living room, well, I just barely sat down when it hit. So my husband said, put the children under the bed and we'll get under. Well, we couldn't get under.
So nobody was hurt in your family?
No, nobody.
When you came out and discovered the roof and everything was gone, what did you do?
We didn't know what to do. My mother had a 2-story apartment house. Let's see, it was just off of Oklahoma, was it? I believe 7th and Oklahoma, or somewhere along there. And so I said, well, we've got to get over to Mother's and see about them. Well, my baby little girl, the youngest girl, was with my sister at my mother's, but Mother was in Lawton with my twin brother. And he was in the service and she was there. And so I said, we've got to get over there. So we went out to get in the car, and you couldn't get in the door open in the car, in the garage. It was locked shut tight.
Were any of your neighbors killed, or did you know any
yes,
were lost?
Yes, next door later to me was killed. I can't think of her name. And then the couple on the other side had a monkey, and it was killed, but none of them were killed.
Okay, so the monkey was killed, the people survived, huh?
That's right.
Well, Lahoma, this is so interesting. Thank you for sharing your story with me.
Well, I was happy to.
47 years ago today, I guess. No, 67. 67 years ago today.
67. Let's see, my children were...
So you would have been about 31, 32 years old.
Probably, yeah. Because we had our 3 children then, and yeah, I imagine. We were married in 22, and so yeah.
How did you actually wind up in Oklahoma in the first place? Where were you born?
I was born at Marlow, Oklahoma, down by Chickasha and Duncan.
And how did you get way up in Woodward?
Well, my dad had a brother that was living in Woodward. I don't know. He had met a lady that was from Woodward, and that's how he got here. And this uncle kept trying to get my dad to move up there, and Dad worked at the gin. And so one year when the gin was over, why, he called Uncle Don and he said, anyway, a man was wanting somebody to move into a nice 2-story house and take care of his cattle. So Dad said, Uncle Don said, please come up here. Said, we haven't been together for so long, and said, come on, and said, you'll like it. So he talked in, and we took a train to Woodward, and let's see, my uncle and this house was out by May, Oklahoma, and my uncle met us in a wagon and horses and took us to the house, and that's how we made it.
Interesting. Well, Lahoma, thank you so much for visiting with me. I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate it.
I'm Glenn Howard, Senior World Radio. We got to take a break, but we're going to be coming right back talking about the tornado in Woodward 67 years ago. Stay with me.
Have you ever had a problem, but it seemed like there was no one who could help? You spent hours calling around, being referred from one place to the next. Well, not anymore. I want to tell you about a free and easy-to-use service in Oklahoma. 211 is a simple 3-digit phone number to get help or to give help when you don't know where to turn. Dialing 211 only takes a minute, and you are connected with a caring Oklahoman who will help you find the assistance you've been looking for. With access to over 13,000 programs, HeartLine 211 can connect you to local resources for many different needs, including health care, food, counseling, rent assistance, disability assistance, job services, and much more. 211 is a service of HeartLine, a United Way partner agency. 211, the right first call to get help or give help 24 hours a day.
Hi, my name's Jason Ledlow, president of UT Phone, the ultimate telephone service. We're proud to be a sponsor of Senior World Radio with Glenn Howard. UT Phone is dedicated to providing Oklahomans affordable telephone service all across our great state. We have Lifeline home phone service starting at just $1.95. That's right, just $1.95, and most of Oklahoma's seniors qualify for this reduced home phone service. They get to keep their old home phone number, and it even includes long distance. Another great feature of UT Phone's customers really like is that it includes repair service. That's right, any repairs at no additional charge. With many telephone services charging $40 to $50 per month, it makes sense to switch your service to UT Phone. This service is a federal program that is provided through the Universal Service Fund. There is only one per household, so make it UT Phone's home phone service for $1.95. Give us a call at 800-996-0098. Again, call 800-996-0098.
I've made up my mind.
Welcome back to Senior World Radio. I'm Glenn Howard, reminiscing about Oklahoma weather. 67 years ago, Oklahoma had its meanest tornado in its history. 116 people lost their lives up in Woodward, Oklahoma. Since I had driven up that way, I was doing a big map of visual presentation in the Midway Church out west of Laverne. I took that big map of visual up there, laid it out in the community center, and had a chance to visit with the people. And during that time, we had a chance to talk to some people who had been survivors of the Woodward tornado back in 1947. One of the gentlemen that I got talked to, a charming old fellow by the name of Bill, had been there and was talking about his experiences. Oh, Billy Lee. So, Billy Lee Stout, you were living in Woodward at the time of the tornado in 1947.
We was living at Tangier.
Now, where's Tangier?
It's west of town here, about 6 or 8 miles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now, the tornado
Airport.
started down near Pampa and went all the way almost to Wichita, Kansas.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, did it hit Tangier?
No, it went south of it.
Went south of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you were not injured or anybody in your family?
No. It went south of us.
What do you remember about the tornado?
Well, you couldn't hardly believe your eyes. I'd come to town, I was hauling the milk out to the Tangier school, and I'd come and went home, and there's a big cloud in the northwest. And who ever thought of a tornado? But it happened. Yeah. And, there's, I forget now, I think over 100 killed.
Yeah.
In that. I don't remember just how many, but...
Did you lose any family members?
Cousins.
Lost cousins.
Yeah. But that's been so long ago I can't even remember their names, you know. You get older, why you forget things.
Right. When it happened, what was the first thing you tried to do? Were you in town here at the time?
No, I was home.
Okay.
And the neighbors come by the house, and they went down by Schaffler's. There's Dart was his name, and it hit his place and tore up his house and everything. And gosh, it just all happened. You couldn't believe what you saw, you know. I was hauling the school milk out of the night and putting it in the refrigerator, and I went home. There was just a big black cloud back there in the southwest, and it just come through, and that's what.
So there was no warning, nothing?
Not that I remember. No. They was the neighbors come by, and his, now let's see, it was Dart was their last name, and they come by, and Dad went with them down there by Fred Schaffler's, and then they come on to town and worked the rest of the night, finding people and, taking them to hospital and everything. But it about made him sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't bother him too much right then, but later on, about 2 weeks later, you could see it was still working on him.
I was living in Turpin, Oklahoma at that time.
Oh.
And my family came into town and saw the damage that was done, and it was just, as you say, unbelievable how bad it was.
You think you know the lay of the land and the buildings and everything, but when they're gone, that all changes. You just you didn't realize what was there till it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Billy, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's
well,
appreciate visiting with you and appreciate your remembrances of that event.
Yeah. Yeah, there was, I think 4 or 5 cousins killed in that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's been so long, my mind has been so far that...
How old are you, Billy?
I am 89. I'll be 90 January 1st.
How about that?
Yeah.
You in good shape for it?
Yeah. I've been halfway around the world and back.
Where have you been?
Korea.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How long?
19 months and 10 days.
What did you do in Korea?
I was a mechanic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Over the last 89 years, what's the most exciting thing you've ever done?
Well, that's hard to say. I guess probably going overseas, seeing how other people had to live, and everything. We're really lucky here.
Yes, we are.
We're really lucky. People don't realize that. They ought to make a tour.
What was your business? What did you do?
I was a mechanic.
In civilian life as well as mechanic, as a military?
Yeah.
Okay.
E.P. Williams, Chevrolet dealer here.
How big a family did you have?
One boy.
Is he still around here?
Yes, he worked for, well, he's got his own business. He's got a welding business
Okay.
of his own.
Did he come see Dad? Does he come see Dad?
Oh, yeah, you bet.
That's great.
Yeah, you bet. That's what keeps you going. I can remember that old storm pretty good. I haven't been down, and they may have taken that out, but up in the southeast corner of the post office down there was a 2x4 that wedged up there in the top of that. And I'd forgot about it for so long, and, after I get to sitting here and everything, why, I don't know whether they've taken it out and patched it up or whether it's still up there.
Billy Lee, thank you for your time.
You betcha.
I'm Glenn Howard, Senior World Radio. It's been a lot of fun talking to our seniors up in Woodward. You may have some stories that you'd like for us to talk about. Give me a call. My phone number is 877-875-0990. Thanks so much for being with us. God bless. See you this same time next week.
I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I've found ever since you've been around. Your love's put me at the top of the world.